So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the Hartlepool by-election and why, if Keir Starmer manages to win this, to keep the seat, it will be a big victory because the chances are, Labour are going to lose the seat, and Labour, were kind of lucky to win it in 2019 if we actually look at the numbers here. So in 2017, you can see that Labour won by a very large amount, about 17, a large amount of points here, nearly 20%, nearly got 20% more votes than the Conservative Party, who were in second. But if we look at 2019, you can see that Richard Tice, who was one of the big hitters out of the the Brexit Party, he did really well here. He got 10k votes, and that obviously lowered the amount of votes that the Labour Party have gotten. If you look here, he's down by 15 points. And obviously the Conservatives, he also, Tice also took votes away from the Conservatives. But, according to a lot of different people, had Tice and the Brexit Party not run in certain seats, then the Conservative majority would have been far higher, because he particularly took votes from them. So, he took potential Labour votes that instead of voting Tory, they voted for the Brexit Party. So had the Brexit Party not actually run, chances are Labour would have faced a far worse defeat in 2019, and that could have been, the damage was bad already, and it could have been far worse. So if we actually look at the polling here, we can see that this poll from the 6th of April, obviously things are moving really quickly. I'm going to put this video out as soon as I can, which tells you that the Conservatives are up by quite a few points. In terms of the margins, they're up by 20 points. A bit strange, to be fair. How much did they get here? All right, yeah, so they're up by about 20 points from where they were in 2019. Labour's vote has gone up a bit as well, but like I said, it's down to the end of the Brexit Party, I guess, because if you look at Farage's new party, which is Reform UK, they've only got 1% of the vote, which is pretty funny, to be fair. Which is pretty funny. But if we actually look at some other specific polls here, you can see from a Survation poll, which puts the Conservatives about 49% of the vote. I think this is actually citing the Survation poll. Yes, it is. So it's the same poll. And you can see here the Conservatives have a good lead on the Labour Party. And if you actually look at the other specifics of to what extent do you think favourably or unfavourably towards these political figures, you can see that, look, almost 50% of people surveyed have a favourable view of Boris Johnson, despite all that's happened with all the COVID deaths and, with all the money to their friends and the failure of test and trace and Brexit. It's still almost half the people surveyed have a strong favourable view of Boris Johnson. 16% of people don't have a view, and 30% of people don't like him. And you got 4 people who don't know or have never heard of Boris Johnson. Most likely just don't know. They don't really care. Maybe they're not involved in politics that much. Okay. Now we look at Keir Starmer, and this is where things get scary. So only about less than a quarter of people surveyed have a favourable view of Keir Starmer. Most people, it looks like 22%, are neither favourable or unfavourable. So maybe that's because they don't really know what he stands for, or maybe they just haven't looked into him enough to come up with an idea. 38% of people, so that's the majority of people surveyed here. Out of the the categories, dislike him, which is crazy considering he barely has a political position. Like, we don't know a lot of the things that he stands for. 8% don't know, and 7% of people have not heard of him. So with the Boris Johnson one, it says here 4% don't know, so obviously they have heard of him. 7% of people in Hartlepool have never heard of Keir Starmer, of the ones surveyed. That's crazy. That's crazy right there. 8% of people don't know, and these numbers here are not good news for Keir Starmer. Really bad news. And if you actually look at some of the other statistics here, considering nurse pay, this is one of the reasons why Keir Starmer hammered on nurse pay so much, is because he knew this resonated with people. With 42% of people wanting nurses to get a 10% pay rise. That's not how much the Royal College of Nursing wants. They want a 12% pay rise. But still, that's a lot of people who want the nurses to get a pay rise, at 10%. 3%, 43% of people want a 3% pay rise. And I would wager that if you gave these people an in-between number, say 6 or 7%, I think a lot of people here in the 3% would be in favour of that. 10% of people saying they a 1% pay rise, which is what the Tories are offering. 2% of people want no pay rise, and I hope you people are idiots. And 3% of people don't know. So what you can see here is, the majority of people in Hartlepool, like the vast majority of people, want the staff within the NHS, want nurses to get between a 10 and 3% pay rise, right? Which is decent. It shows you that the people of Hartlepool aren't complete frauds. But why they would vote for the Conservative Party when they're against this pay rise is crazy. But at the same time, Labour have said they just want the 2.1% pay rise that the NHS had budgeted for. So what do Labour stand for when it comes to this? I don't know. If we look here, which of the following government policies take priority in your view? Investing more in public services, paying off the country's deficit, or don't know? The vast majority of people want to see more investment in public services, which again goes against traditional Conservative philosophy. But it shows you that the people of Hartlepool aren't super right wing. They're not really that right wing, despite what the polling looks like in terms of policy positions. In these cases, they are more towards the Labour side than the Tory side. I do wonder though, if you ask them about things like immigration, etc., where they would stand there. So that would be an interesting one to look at. We go to another one. 57% of people want Royal Mail to be nationalised. That's a very left wing position, I would argue, because it was privatised and it's still running, not as well I think as it was before, but it's still going. And I think that's the last poll. Oh no, there's one more. Would you support or oppose the policy of providing free broadband to all UK homes and businesses by 2030? Obviously, when you phrase it like this, people think free. Like a lot of these people may not have thought, it's going to come out of somewhere, which is government spending. But 69% of people support free broadband, which is a Corbyn policy, which was one of the things that I believe kind of sunk the 2019 campaign. 69% of people, the vast majority of people, support this idea. 10% of people neither support or oppose, so maybe they're just a bit indifferent. 18% of people oppose this, and 3% don't know. So what this tells you is the people of Hartlepool, at least based on this survey, believe in left-wing policies. To an extent, I would want to see what they believe on things like immigration and taxation and all that stuff. But what this tells you is that they are left-wing in the sense of they do believe in certain left policies. But then why is it that they're voting Conservative? That's the key question. And I've seen some analysis here from David Hooding, who says that not particularly surprised as Labour currently has no identity as a party, while the Conservatives are offering any identity you want, from nationalising big spenders to austerity deregulators, wrapping it in a flag and dominating the media, which is true. The Conservatives are offering kind of every position apart from being deficit hawks. But they're saying we need to raise taxes to pay off, the debt and deficit. So they're offering everything, anything you could possibly want. The first thing you're going to hear, the first thing that you like, that's the thing you're going to run with in your own mind, in the voters' mind. Though, incidentally, I hear plenty of gloomy talk from conservatives right now that they don't know what they stand for anymore and they don't trust their leader at all. They're changing politics that we see elsewhere. I think he's hinting at America. I suspect easier for amorphous parties and leaders to retain power. Also much easier for a government to wrap itself in the flag than for an opposition for whom it always seems slightly like opportunism. Truly, whether the government is right or left. And the thing is, right, the Conservatives are saying that we're the big spenders, we're going to do infrastructure, we're going to do all of these other things, when Keir Starmer's offering nothing policy-wise. I've seen very little of him. I've not seen his Brexit stance, I've not seen his spending stances, I've not seen what he wants to do with infrastructure. Does he support free broadband? Does he oppose it? How much does he want for nurses' pay rise? Because in the 2019 manifesto, I think it said around 5% increase. And then when Angela Rayner was asked about it, she said, the 2019 manifesto was rejected by people, so why, people don't want that, when, it wasn't, no one was like, I would have voted Labour, but like the 5% nurses' pay rise, nah, man, I had to vote Tory because of that. Like, get lost, honestly. Because the Labour Party have no actual policy positions, or have little to no policy positions, this is one of the reasons you get something like this, especially when the polls tell you that people in Hartlepool do have some left-leaning views. So it's embarrassing, to be honest, for Keir Starmer to have a seat like this, where if he could appeal to people I think he'd have a stronger chance of winning it. But at the same time, Labour were lucky to win that seat in 2019. Very lucky to win that seat in 2019. So I don't think if he loses, I don't think it's a huge loss, but I think he really needs to look at himself and think about what he stands for here, because the people within Hartlepool aren't, super right wing people. It looks like in terms of certain positions they are left leaning. So he needs to figure out what he's about. He needs to figure out what he stands for, because otherwise, Labour are going to end up losing next time out, and Hartlepool will be a test of that. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.